In today's video, the president is receiving a lot of praise, but also a lot of hate from the Hamas and Israel peace deal. Secondly, the Insurrection Act is on the table. How are Democrats responding to it? And finally, when it comes to black issues, it seems that Gavin Newsom is hopping on the train with reparations. In all these stories, we're going to show you what both sides are saying and then give you the bottom line.
I always say this. You cannot ever deny success. You just have to give your respect, even if it's not your thing. Don't have the humility to give it up for enormous success on any level.
I agree.
Trump, not my choice. Didn't vote for him, but somehow,
a lot of people did.
And he's. I can't deny the success.
I can't either.
Yeah.
And he's the president.
Okay, so we pick up where we left off earlier, which we find ourselves in this historic monumental moment of Israel and Hamas accepting phase one of this peace proposal that was put together and led by the president. And of course, there are reactions to go around on both sides of the aisle that I find to be interesting, and I think you will too throughout this video. And that's why we started off with Bill Maher doing exactly what separates him from Jimmy Kimmel and the rest of these comedians. He's not afraid to have met with the president, as we know. He's not afraid to talk to the president. He definitely was not afraid to give him credit. And even his guest had to look at the floor in shame and recognize how successful the president has been here. Now, to piggyback on the Democrats accepting President Trump's success and really the world here, I want you guys to listen to this caller. He called into C-SPAN earlier this morning and was getting choked up over this announcement. Take a listen.
Democrat, good morning. What'd you think of the speech?
Yes, hi. That was I'm going to get choked up. A momentous speech. And I'm a conservative Democrat living here in New York, where this example of bringing peace to everyone should be thought of in New York City, where out of ignorance, the people are about to elect a guy who's pro-terrorist, pro-Hamas, who's friends with his people in Uganda, a country that lawfully executes people for being gay. And this should be a wake-up call to everyone, that people can live together. I go back. I worked as a young man for Humphrey and for McGovern, and became more conservative as I've gotten older. But this was like the best.
Now, one or two things are true about this call. Either he's trolling or he really does feel that way. And there are Americans out there that actually have that type of reaction from this moment that we find ourselves in. And as I said on the live show, I think the greatest thing that everybody should be celebrating, no matter what side you're on regarding this debate with Israel, Hamas, and AIPAC, et cetera, all this stuff, is the hostages have been returned, and there is currently peace at the moment. Nobody's firing on each other. There is no war at this point in time. Military troops have retreated, and there's much more, obviously, to get done. I mean, this is just a fraction. But isn't that a good thing to celebrate, even if it's just today? And unfortunately, that's not what we saw from all Democrats. And I will show you an example of that. But listen to what this caller ended up saying to close out. Take a listen.
Oh, he does it in his own style. We actually live pretty close to where he grew up. And, New Yorkers like Bernie Sanders are sort of different. They're funny. They're abrasive sometimes. But there should be a lesson to all of us that we can all live together. I think the future, if the Gazans really accept the goodness and the money that's going to come from the Arab community and from the world community, it can be a different world. And I'm sorry for being so emotional, but it's a great moment in history for everyone. And we have to reject hate. We have to reject Antifa. We have to reject Mandami. And we have to come together as human beings. I'm an old guy. Life is short. And we should live it with love. All right, thank you.
That's Philip in New York.
Now, I'm operating from the premise that this caller is real and what he says is true. in regards to what he means. And that is about, well, first, Mondani. I mean, I obviously reject him. I'm sure you do, but New Yorkers don't. That's why it's a foregone conclusion that he's about to be the next New York City mayor. But here's the interesting thing about our democracy, as Democrats like to call it. We've seen what happened to California, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, particularly these big cities that are run by Democrats. It's on the voters. They will have to live with what they are asking for. They're asking for socialism at this point in New York City, and that's unfortunate. And a lot of people are going to reject that overall as a nation. But the fact remains, Democrats are still lost. And there's still a small portion of them that can see what the president has done here with Israel and Hamas. And they're willing to come out publicly and say, hey, you know what? Good job. Because if the president is successful, that means America is successful. And remember, the overall success of today is the hostages have been released and returned back to their families. That is success. And that's why we're going to go to this next clip where the president and all parties involved are actually signing this peace agreement in person. Take a look.
Okay. This took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up, too. It's going to hold up. Okay, thank you. You can use my pen if you want.
All right, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but this is a huge announcement. So Trump Media Group partnered with Crypto.com in a $6.4 billion deal. Why is this so important? Well, in case you didn't know, I have a Crypto.com account and I invested in the Trump meme coin earlier this year and I was successful. Okay. And so when I heard about this news of Trump Media Group partnering with Crypto.com to establish the first American crypto treasury, I knew I had to be somewhat involved and figure out more information and then share it with you guys. See, you don't have to technically be an expert when it comes to crypto to participate in things like this. You just have to be aware. And you should probably have an account with Crypto.com because understand something. What continues to happen to the American dollar, you know, and I know it. And I truly believe that Bitcoin is the future in some way, shape, or form, including crypto in general. So head over to Crypto.com, be a part of this movement, this historic change, and how this administration is backing the power of crypto. Again, head over to Crypto.com today. So at this point, you guys understand exactly where we're at and what the president has accomplished. I don't care who started the plan. I don't care who spoke to who. At the end of the day, it was President Trump in that room signing those peace agreements. And this entire situation seems to me to be de-escalating at this point. But for Democrats out there, they still can't bring it to themselves to acknowledge that, which is why Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren right here on the screen says, for 2 excruciating years, I have called for the return of the hostages brutally kidnapped on October 7th and held in Gaza. Today is a good day. Surviving Israeli hostages are finally home and reuniting with loved ones. I'm thinking of them and their families on this joyful day and praying for their full recovery. I'm also giving for all those who can't come home today. Today must also be an important step toward lasting peace in the region, peace for both Israelis and Palestinians. We must end the war in Gaza, surge humanitarian aid, and negotiate a 2-state solution now. And what's interesting, like the people in the comments were stating, I'm not seeing anywhere where she acknowledged that the president was a part of this. Here's another good one. Get in there and make it about you. That's exactly what Democrats are doing. And here's another good one. The words you were looking for, Elizabeth, are thank you, President Trump. Now, she wasn't the only one. Let's go to the former president. You know what he posted today on X? Nothing, exactly. And in fact, the only thing he did post was about his interview with Mark Maron here in his garage tape, something new called a podcast. This time he came to me to record his last episode. And funny enough, he did not mention anything about what the president has accomplished here. In fact, he went on to repeat what he did last week, which is to go down this rant about authoritarianism. Take a listen.
When you have military that can direct force against their own people, that is inherently corrupting. When you have what looks like a deliberate end run around not just a concept, but a law that's been around for a long time, posse comitatus, that says, you know, you don't use our military on domestic soil unless there is an extraordinary emergency of some sort. That when you see an administration suggest that ordinary street crime is an insurrection or
a terrorist act,
Yeah, that is a genuine effort to weaken how we have understood democracy.
See, it's just unfortunate that Barack Obama, Hussein Obama, the deporter-in-chief, the bomber-in-chief, can't even bring himself to give President Trump credit. Bill Clinton did today, though, which is interesting. But this is a perfect segue to story number 2 anyway, which is about the Insurrection Act, because that's what you just heard him alluding to, that the president is doing something that's never been done before. It's not meant to be used this way. Well, why don't we give everybody a quick fact check or education, which actually happened to George Slopinopoulos yesterday on ABC News, when one of the guests there educated him on the fact that this has been done with at least half of the presidents in history. Take a listen.
I have 30 seconds left. Do you think it's going to get that far? Is the president going to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Nearly half of U.S. presidents have invoked the Insurrection Act during their terms, some more than once. Donald Trump said he would do it during his first term.
Not over the objections of governors.
Absolutely. Think about Eisenhower and Little Rock. It was absolutely over the objection of the governor to desegregate the schools. The Insurrection Act, for years, lawyers have been saying this is far too broad. They warned about it at the beginning of the Biden administration. This is the time to change the Insurrection Act. We missed the opportunity then, and here we are.
Well, I suppose the better question at this point regarding the Insurrection Act is, why didn't Democrats do something about it when they were in power? I think the answer is just like everything else for Democrats. They were too obsessed with the president. Okay. They made their entire world about President Trump. And as a result, they forgot about the American people. It's why he was elected the first time around. These corrupt individuals on Capitol Hill, the establishment, uniparty, call them whatever you want, deep state, they can care less about the American people. We know that through results. They sold out American workers, shipped everything overseas. Everybody knows that at this point. And what's fascinating is half the country is still buying what they're selling, which is a bunch of, I'm not even going to curse, but I think you guys know where I'm going with all that. So why don't we go to this next clip? And I think this is more of this nonsense they continue to, program their base to believe. This is Chris Murphy on MSDNC last night claiming that we have reached a state of authoritarianism in our country. Take a listen.
Have we slipped already into the authoritarianism? Is there a way out? I mean, give us your unvarnished thoughts here.
Well, listen, I mean, we are not on the verge of an authoritarian takeover. We're in the middle of it. Now, it's not too late. We haven't lost our democracy. But, you know, we sometimes like to think of the first term Donald Trump, the bumbling White House that didn't seem to have any theory of the case from day to day. This is a very different White House, right? Stephen Miller and his gang, they have a plan. They have a plan that they are executing to transition our country from democracy to something fundamentally different, maybe even autocracy. And that's what I tried to lay out on the floor today, is how this plan is being operationalized every single day. But no, it is not a lost cause. Ultimately, what we know from history is that when a big enough portion of the population, the number's normally around 2%, show up to protests, are regularly engaged in peaceful civic action, enough sand gets thrown in the gears of the attempts to destroy the democracy that you end up saving it. So we have an opportunity in these elections this November to send a signal. We have an opportunity through the protests on October 18th to show the country and the world that we aren't lying down. So this is a serious moment. It's almost lost, but it's definitely not lost yet.
Wow, I didn't know that it wasn't lost yet, because according to you guys, the democracy has been destroyed. It's gone. I mean, these people are a joke, okay? And the fascinating thing is he's like, oh, well, these are just peaceful protests. Well, really? I mean, have you paid attention to the news in Portland, how they're using lasers to prevent helicopters from flying in the sky as far as federal authorities are concerned? And it's actually impacting the local hospital. from receiving medevacs. I mean, how do you compensate for that exactly? Well, Chris Murphy doesn't care about the truth. I know you do, so let me show it to you. Take a look. Let's play
News
that.
has learned that some people are planning to shine lasers into the sky this weekend in an attempt to ground federal helicopters. This comes after there's been multiple arrests in recent days for laser pointing, both at police and federal aircraft. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Dunn.
I'm Deborah Knapp. K2 is now working to confirm what group is trying to coordinate these efforts to bring down federal helicopters. K2's Thanvi Verma joins us live now from the ICE facility in South Portland. What is happening right now, Thanvi?
So, Deb, things are not only peaceful, but they're very lighthearted. If you look behind me, you can see people have come out in costumes. You have people dressed up as pickles, bananas, frogs, even a hot dog. And at least one protester tells me he hopes things remain peaceful just like this. Protests outside the ICE facility have been going on for months. On Friday, K2 News got word of a possible new tactic, a call to shine lasers into the sky to ground federal helicopters that are flying over South Portland. Ron Magnus is a flight instructor in Washington County. He warns of the dangers of pointing lasers into the sky.
The dangers primarily are blindness on the part of the people flying the airplanes, the pilots and the other crew members.
When I say accountability, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Those people should be locked up immediately. All it takes is just one helicopter to fall out of the sky because of this. I mean, the fact that you have to shut down helicopters or prevent them from landing at hospitals, meaning they're medevacing somebody because they need urgent care, I think that's already a problem. Now, that's why I say for the people who are part of the 2%, the independents out there, do you think that is the appropriate way to respond to what you disagree with? Stopping medevac operations, playing laser tag in the sky, assaulting ICE officers? Is that really the way that we should be responding as a country? Of course not. So ask yourself, what's more chaotic? Assaulting ICE officers, running into vehicles, vandalizing federal property, shining your laser at a helicopter, military, law enforcement, or even medevac, or ICE officers picking up someone who has a rap sheet? You ask me, you answer that. Which one's more chaotic to you? I think I have a good idea what that answer might be for some folks. Now, as you guys know, we like to show you both sides of the story, but what we're going to do actually is go to this other clip, nude protesting. I told you it gets bizarre, okay? So nude protesting is exactly what sums up what they were up to over this weekend in Portland. Let's watch that.
So they're all laying on the blocking vehicles. Take the journey inside. To become patient, to receive.
Yeah, so there was additional clips where they were outside the ICE detention facility on their bicycles. That was one protest. They were all naked, of course. And I guess that's their way of protesting. I think it's bizarre. I think it continues to speak to the mental crisis that is continuing to occur on the left. Because I don't know about you. You're not going to find Devori with no clothes on in public. Just ain't going to happen. Okay? It's just not going to happen. And I'm definitely not going to do it in a way to protest what I disagree with. Hey, but it's their right. They can do that. They can, go out there and make themselves look stupid. That's no problem. I don't think I'm arguing against that. But I'm not really arguing anything. I'm just trying to show you guys the mental state of what's happening on the left. And we started this story with what MSDNC was saying. They said Portland's fine. It's all good. Doesn't look like it to me. Looks like a sane asylum is happening. But they let them all out on the streets. Now, speaking of the craziness from the left, today at Broadview, Illinois ICE detention facility, you have individuals claiming that the federal government putting up fences and barriers to block protesters from obviously obstructing ICE officers from doing their job is another example of the federal government seeking to divide us as people and as a race. Take a look.
American president actually ordered an iron fence to be erected in American City. Just as the Berlin Wall did in 1961, this fence stands as a symbol of division. This fence is a symbol of dividing families. This fence is a symbol of dividing communities. This fence is a symbol of dividing Americans. And this fence is a symbol of denying American constitutional rights. This fence is also a distraction. Let's be clear. This fence is a distraction and a reinforcement of the havoc Trump has wreaked on our nation. We must pull back all of these fences and all of these barriers to the American dream. Mr. Trump, tear down this fence now.
See, that's just another example how Democrats don't like security. They don't like law and order. They don't like borders, which we know very well of. And they don't even like this border. Protection. It keeps people safe, secure, and in an orderly fashion so people can do their job and go home, and the protesters can do their job and go home, and nobody has to get hurt. It's a common sense decision that has been made. Should have been made earlier, in my opinion, but we are where we are right now. Now, the unfortunate part, again, if you want to continue to see the craziness and the reactions from all of this, look no further than MSDNC just earlier today.
What Donald Trump wants is to do what Barack Obama actually did, deport more people than any president in the history of the United States. And he has failed. He failed in his first term to do that. And now he is making the biggest push that he possibly can. But the one thing that can stop him is the same thing that stopped him in the first term, which is tens of thousands of people going out into the streets. And guess what? That's the other thing I saw in Chicago last week, a spontaneous, massive protest of something like 7,000 to 10,000 people, organizers say, marching up and down the same Michigan Avenue that those agents kitted out in tactical gear and long rifles before the National Guard even made it to the streets of Illinois to try to stop this. And it's what drove them out of Los Angeles. It's what's going to drive them out of Chicago. And I think that it's going to drive them out of other cities as well.
All right. So bottom line here, as it pertains to the Insurrection Act, the president hasn't invoked it yet. He could have, but he hasn't done it yet. Secondly, Democrats continue to do what has made them, in my opinion, alienate most of Americans. And number three, if this is all the president is going to do, which is to provide federal resources and even National Guard troops to federal assets so they can be protected and allowed to do their job, I don't think that is chaotic, as I said earlier. I think the chaotic stuff is when you have people obstructing ICE officers, shining lasers at helicopters, taking off all their clothes and protesting nude in front of these ICE detention facilities, laying on a wet ground. I mean, these people, it's an insane asylum at this point in public. It's craziness. So I think that is more chaotic. All right. Now we go to our next story, which is all about culture, particularly black culture, because two things have occurred over the weekend that I want to discuss. First, Gavin Newsom has convened a committee to look at reparations for California. That's number one. And two, we have black women who are political commentators attacking black men who are political commentators. And I want to also react to that as well. But let's hear what Gavin Newsom is up to.
Gavin Newsom, after the George Floyd protests and riots of 2020, committed to putting in place a reparations advisory board, a reparations piece of legislation in California. He has now done so. He has committed to an advisory board that will look at everyone's case to allocate reparations for. Well, that's the real key here. For what? Because we're talking about a state that never had slaves. We're talking about people who are not, if they're in California, the descendants of slaves, and giving money away and taking it from people who never owned slaves. So I don't know how this is going to work logistically, and I'm not sure what message that sends morally.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they think they're righting the wrongs of, our ancestors in the past. But again, like you said, logistically, how do you make that work? And why is it fair for people who never owned slaves? And historically speaking, it was a tiny minority of people who ever owned slaves to begin with. So people's that ancestors never owned slaves are now paying people who never were slaves. The whole thing is messed up, and it also just doesn't really focus on accountability and decision making, which is the thing that people need to be focused on, not getting handouts, not getting free cash, not getting help from the government.
Yeah, you see, the thing about reparations that people don't understand, you're basically operating on a low frequency. What does that exactly mean? By me punishing someone to reward you of something that you didn't even take part of is, to me, treating you like a victim. And when I treat you like a victim, you know how you feel? Like a victim. And that causes you to make choices that only victims would make. Now, we've seen what happens when reparations will hit a community. Look no further than the Native Americans. All you have to do is take a drive to California, look at the reservations. They're in shambles because they're getting handouts all day long. And people like to push back and say, well, you know, there's not much that the federal government can legislate on their land. It didn't matter whether you did or you didn't. When you give handouts, we've seen it with welfare. You're programming the children to get welfare. You're programming people to always seek handouts and never make decisions for themselves. Now, I'm going to keep it short right there because I think that's the bottom line to it. The last thing the Black community needs is a handout. The Black community needs to understand how to move on, like all communities have. Think of Jewish people who were a part of the Holocaust. They moved on. Think of Muslims who got discriminated against during 9/11. They moved on. I mean, we could go on and on. The Japanese who were placed in actual camps, they moved on. But the only community on this planet who still refuses to move on to bigger and better things is the Black community. Ask yourself, why is that? Who's causing them not to move on? Is it themselves or is it the white man? That's what they want us to believe. Now, let me show you this clip from Steven Crowder. Some of you guys may have already seen this going viral. He was in a barber shop owned by Black men, of course, and reparations came up. Take a look.
The white kid who didn't break the law, who never had any slaves, and his forefathers shouldn't be paying for someone who's a serial offender. Could we do that math? Would that be fair?
No.
Nope? Okay.
No. Absolutely. And the reason why, once again, because
I'm trying to find some common ground, because that white kid...
And I'm trying to tell you, you're trying to start the starting point right here when you're not factoring in what happened to get that kid in that low-income, impoverished environment that created the criminal that he ended up being.
Oh, my God. This is what we do. It's not crime, it's poverty. Then why do poor white people not commit violent crime at the same rate?
They do.
No, they don't.
It's just usually different types of crime.
No, they do not.
They do.
It's a fact, dude.
Y'all just shovel them all
They
in
just
the trailer
different
park,
types.
act
Yeah,
like
they just
don't
different
exist.
types of
No,
crime.
we
And then they
don't
go off. They
we
go
don't
off
shovel
in
in
the
the trailer
hills and
park.
live.
They sell.
They go off in the hills and live amongst the rest of the toothless hillbillies, but they do.
All right, so there is a lot there. But I just want to focus on the only thing we can control, which is what's in here and what's in here. That's the one fact that the Black community refuses to accept. They believe they can control white people, that they can control the system, that they can control how people see them. Unfortunately, that's not a reality. There's a lot of people who watch me and agree with me and still think I'm stupid. Okay, I have no control over that. But what I can control is my mindset. And the interesting thing about my mindset, and like some Black people in the community who have moved on and built a great life for themselves, especially for their families, is we're not thinking about what happened 100 years ago. We're thinking about right now and what am I doing to move forward? That is what's missing with the Black community. They're so stuck in the past. It's like a girlfriend who was beaten in her last relationship and still won't let it go. How will she ever get married in the future? She won't. And if she does, it will end in divorce. She needs therapy. She needs forgiveness. She needs love. She needs to move on. But they're not going to do it. And I'm going to have some Black people reach out to me and say, DeVore, you just don't get it. I don't need to get it. Because life is too short for me to spend 99% of my time focusing on something that happened in the past. I got a family, I got a purpose, and I got a mission. And that should take priority over what happened to my ancestors. Because you know what? One day I'm going to wake up and it's going to be my last. So why not focus on teaching my son, my family, how to live a better life above all this nonsense? Because that's really what it is in the end. It's not going to get the Black community any results. It won't. And Black people are programmed, part of the community that is, programmed to be in violent crime because that's what they grow up in. That's not the white man at this point. Black people had more than enough opportunity to change their destination. It's just the parents don't do it. And when I say parents, they're not even married. It's the one community that has the lowest marital rate. Think about that for a second. Black people did it to themselves. No, DeVore, you don't understand. It's the white man. Let's say I give that to you. It is the white man. What you gonna do about it? Just like Denzel Washington said, hey, you know what? If the system is real and it does exist, then why put yourself out there then? Why? It's a great question in my opinion. Okay, let's go to this next clip. This is Tiffany Cross attacking Stephen A. Smith for basically telling the truth about Jasmine Crockett, but she makes it all about the Black people. Take a listen.
It's not a matter of who's impacted worse. We're impacted differently. We sit at the intersection of being Black and being women. And so when men are frustrated with this system, it feels like they fight us. You know, and I would put Stephen A. Smith in that category too. I'm mad at y'all for having joy. I'm mad at y'all for having success. I'm mad at y'all for surpassing us on college campuses. And so it's a small sect of men that are so angry and hurt that they're willing to align with the people who oppress us. What am I getting wrong? Because if you listen to Stephen A. Smith and you find anything other than some absolute, pure, self-hating, little dick energy nonsense from that half-witted idiot basking in the non-existent rays of his own ignorance, it is sad to me that he even gets an audience of Black men. Why aren't Black men right now saying, F Stephen A. Smith, we banning him, we not listening to his podcast, we're not watching his show anymore? That's what Black women do. We organize.
And there you have it, folks. The bottom line to this particular story about culture, particularly Black culture, is Black women don't even respect Black men. That is the bottom line. How do we know that? All you have to do is listen to how they describe Black men to begin with. And when a Black man decides to use his own mind, critically think, and has a difference of opinion than the rest of his community, what do? They call us delusional. They think we're coons. They think we're lost. We should be saying F Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith is no threat to anybody. He has an opinion. Some of it I disagree with it. Some of it I agree with. I don't understand why she felt the need to attack him. Well, she felt the need to attack him because he criticized Jasmine Crockett from a political standpoint. And when you offer up criticism and tell people the truth, you know they're weak-minded when they have to reach to slurs and slangs and start saying this is hate speech and he should be canceled. I think that sums up their intelligence. But I'm going to stop here because I can just keep going, obviously. So let's get your guys' comments below to what we discussed today, starting with, obviously, the hostages being returned. What did you make of the reactions from both sides of the aisle? Secondly, what do you make of the Insurrection Act? Do you believe the president should invoke that like yesterday? And finally, what did you make of my reaction to Steven Crowder, Gavin Newsom, and Tiffany Cross regarding the Black community? Give me all your thoughts and everything you got in the comment section below. Now, in our next video, Democrats have suffered another major setback as their lies regarding ICE officials have been exposed, particularly who they have apprehended over the weekend and their ages and who they really were. So if you guys missed out on that update and more from yesterday, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.